Today's episode is brought to you by Forvis Mazars.
SoundCartel.
From SoundCartel, I'm Nicole Goodman, and this is Business Essentials Daily. Coming soon, in January 2025, are new rules to Australia's workplace laws, which mean employers who intentionally underpay wages will be committing a criminal offence. The big question is, will it include a stint in jail for business owners? To answer that and many other matters is lawyer Paul Cott, principal at law on Lydiard. Paul explains the new wage theft law and what it means to Chris Ashmore.
So a lot of people will say that I've not been paid or I've been underpaid, and they call that wage theft. That's not actually correct. It's only when the underpayment or the non-payment of wages and entitlements and superannuation, it's only when that's intentional. So when the employer is either intentional or reckless, which means I think I might be underpaying you or I think I might be not paying you, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Right.
I'm going to go ahead and not pay you correctly or whatever. So it's got a criminal element to it now with these new laws, not just the mistaken underpayment, such as, the various companies that have been in the media. It's got to be deliberate.
Right.
So you've got to have the requisite, what's called mens rea, we call it, which is a Latin term for state of mind.
So if it's a criminal matter, what then are the penalties for a business that commits wage theft?
So obviously everybody would associate that if you've committed a crime, you can go to jail. In this scenario, yes, it's possible. Not a business can't go to jail, not a company. Individuals can go to jail. I would imagine that it would only be in the most extreme cases that an individual is going to be sent to jail for wage theft. It might be when they've made or even not made admissions. Obviously, probably a lot of employees have been affected, a blatant disregard for the law. So it would have to be something pretty extreme. But there is provision for employers who are individuals to go to jail. But generally, it's fines that are imposed.
Fines. So is the business being fined or an individual being fined?
So if it's a company, it'll be the company that's being fined. If it's an individual trading as a business, it'll be the individual who gets the fines.
So who is the individual? Is it the business owner?
Correct. Yeah. It'll be the owner of the business name. So a lot of people will say, for example, tradies and so forth will operate as John Smith Trading as, John Smith Architecture, whatever it might be. It's that individual who owns that business is the business. It'll be them that gets the prosecution.
Now, of course, I'm going to say there are many different types of businesses and business sizes, and you might have a privately owned business with multiple locations across the country with different divisions and HR departments and departments that pay the salary who might somebody within that department doing the wrong thing despite the business owner's best intentions and doesn't know that they're paying or, conducting wage theft. Is the business owner still?
Well, again, if it's a company, it's a company. So you have to get away in that context from business owner. It'll be ABC Proprietary Limited. That entity will be fined. So whoever owns it is really the shareholders. The shareholders won't be fined. The shareholders probably won't know about it, so they won't have the requisite state of mind. It'll be the company. But where individuals in the company, such as directors, knowingly are involved in it or knowingly concerned, they can be accessories. Right. So it's what's called accessorial liability, which would mean that the company gets fined and also the individuals can get fined as well as accessories to the conduct.
It can only occur if someone's intentionally doing it.
Correct. The majority of underpayments, allegedly, the majority of payments that happen are mistaken. We've got a complex industrial relations and award system in Australia. There's no doubt that there's many instances where underpayments, not non-payments, but underpayments are made by mistake. Simple error. That's not wage theft. That's a different area altogether. It's still potentially an underpayment, but it's not wage theft. Theft is a criminal offence. Combining wage with theft means that it's done intentionally.
Right, yep. And which body investigates the allegations of intentional underpayments?
The Fair Work Ombudsman, which is a Commonwealth body that operates around Australia-wide. They have various functions, but one of them is investigating wage theft breaches. They now investigate and enforce all other non-payment issues or underpayment issues, even if they're not wage theft. They sometimes will take matters to court. They will sometimes chase up. Sometimes they'll invite the parties to have a mediation discussion with the Fair Work Ombudsman, but that's the body that's normally involved in it.
Right. If a business has indeed been found guilty of intentional underpaying an employee, can that staffer get that money they're entitled to?
Yes, definitely. Particularly if it goes to court. What would happen is that the court would make an order that the underpayments plus the associated superannuation and potentially the associated annual leave and even potentially the associated long service leave, all those things are paid. That's probably the first order they'll do to make sure the employee gets paid. Secondly, there might be the penalties that get imposed. The employee may get some portion or even all of those penalty amounts paid to the employee as well.
Mm-hmm. What then is the lesson for business owners? Make sure that you understand what awards you're paying and pay them.
The most basic principle is if somebody comes to you and says, do you know on what basis you're paying this person? Make sure you know, because some employers just don't know. They've never turned their mind to it, or it's out of date. They haven't updated it. They haven't increased their pay. It is complex, but there are certainly things you can do to keep on top of it too. If there's wage increases, keep on top of the wage increases. If an employee says I'm being underpaid, look at it and investigate it and fess up if you think they might not have been, or get some advice. Ring up a lawyer and say, look, I'm not really sure, or ring up the Fair Work Ombudsman. They assist employers and say, look, I'm not sure if I'm paying this person correctly. Can you help me? There's plenty of help.
That was Paul Cott, Principal at Law on Lydiard. This episode of Business Essentials Daily is produced by the team at SoundCartel. Thanks for listening. I'm Nicole Goodman. We'll bring you more Be Daily tomorrow. Follow at BE Daily Podcast across social media and head to bedaily.com.au for more from the Business Essentials Daily podcast. SoundCartel. This episode was brought to you by Forvis Mazars. To find out more, visit forvismazars.com/au. That's FORVISMAZARS.com/au.